Blessings and welcome back to my channel. On January 6th, around 6:08 p.m. Eastern Time, we are going to be experiencing a full moon. This full moon is going to be in tropical Cancer, in Hexagram 53, and in the Vedic Sidereal Nakshatra of Punarvasu, in Hexagram 45. This Cancer full moon. I feel like a part of me has been waiting for this all year. The energies of nurturing and self-care, and Cancer being the mother archetype, right? Cancer is a cardinal sign, so it naturally has this creative leadership quality to it. The cardinal signs represent the connection with the transformation of the seasons as well. And the way that I'm seeing these polarities, right, I've been noticing a lot more as I've been studying the lunar cycles, which may be obvious to some, but it's been standing out to me a lot more as of late, is the polarities between where the sun is and what the full moon is and the corresponding signs. So right now the sun technically is in tropical Capricorn. And this Capricornian energy, as I mentioned in my last video, has to do with the father archetype. It's ruled by Saturn. It's the authoritative energy, right? It creates the structures and the foundations and stability, and it's really beautiful seeing these dynamics play out with the Capricorn and Cancer full moon, where I feel like the Capricorn is more so holding this container, right? It's holding this framework for the Shakti of the Cancer energy to move through and to be in and to create from and out of. And this Cancerian energy, this mother archetype, is really asking us, how are we nurturing ourselves? How are we learning to reparent ourselves through the energies of the inner mother within, regardless of what our gender is? And a great example of this, I literally just woke up from a nap like 20 minutes ago, and this is something that I've been doing the past week or so because my body has just been needing more rest. And where previously I would start judging it or start trying to stop myself from doing it due to sleep cycles at night or whatnot, I'm just learning to listen and to honor my body, even if it's just like for 10 minutes, for 15 minutes, for 20 minutes, right? So that's just an example of what nurturing has felt like to me in the small way as of late. But this is what this energy is asking of us, because it's also reminding us that in order to really be able to give from a full cup, right? Like in any mother archetype, whether an actual literal mother or a mother just being a creator of something, or a giver or a nurturer, like any mother archetype, it's important for us to ensure our own cup is full and our own being is rejuvenated in order to really be able to give from a place of overflow versus a place of depletion. Because of course the quality of the giving, the texture of it, would be different according to whether it's coming from overflow or depletion. Hexagram 53. This one's really dear to me. So my conscious sun in my human design in my gene key chart, in the gene keys, it's the life's work, is in 53. And there's a really beautiful quote about this, which I'm going to read to you from divination.com. Like an ancient forest, where the subtle play of light, texture, and shadow results from a process measured in centuries and inches, things of lasting value develop gradually at their own pace. So beautiful, this one. In the hexagram, the definition is gradual progress or progress, depending on how you want to look at it. And the idea of this is the understanding that just like the tall tree that has been on a mountain for hundreds of years didn't happen overnight, right? It dug into the ground, into the roots, and strengthened its connection deeper and deeper. Just as deep as the roots go, are as high as the tree goes as well. And as the gentle wind comes and blows above ground, It strengthens the tree. It strengthens the integrity of the tree. And yet the progress is inevitable. The movement and change is inevitable. When you're looking at this from a gene key perspective, the shadow is immaturity. The gift is expansion. And the siddhi is superabundance. And from my experience and my understanding of this key, it's really asking us to grow and to change and to be and to do from within, from the inside out. It isn't necessarily this desire or the motivation coming from looking for validation or looking for something from the outside, whether it's information or affirmation for what we're doing. It comes from this inner drive, this inner being to progress, not just for the sake of progression as an outcome, but for the sake of progression as a state of being and as a state of nature, which we are all a part of. And doing this from within. This key is also a part of the codon ring of seeking. And the keys on this codon ring have also been really dear to me. And one of the beautiful quotes I remember reading about this codon ring on the Gene Keys website, which you can find it, you can look it up. And I don't know it in this moment word for word, but essentially it is saying that all of our seeking externally eventually just leads ourselves back within. Right? So from this greater perspective, all of our answers come from within. They bloom from within. And you can see this mother archetype energy, this natural innate creator energy that's implicit within that. Right? It's all within us, all the answers, all the information, all the knowledge, all the knowing, the innate knowing is within us. And this key in the human design framework, gate 53, is also connected to the Parvati Godhead. And Parvati, if you know Parvati, she's the mother of all the goddesses in the Hindu, Brahmic, Vedic religious system. And this one, from my interpretation, my experience, is such a beautiful paradox, this Parvati energy. Because essentially, the paradox, the dichotomy, is both devotion and freedom. Right? It's the devotion to create. It's the mother, the genetic imperative for procreation. So there's a devotion innate within that already. And there's also this freedom from it. Not necessarily from the circumstance, but freedom for the sake of progression and creation. And in the human design framework, this gate is the gate of beginnings. So in a sense, it supports the initiation of new things being created, whether relationships or projects or the beginning of a cycle, for example. And this paradox, this duality that I was mentioning, this devotion and this freedom, from my perspective, are two sides of the same coin. Because it's important for us to devote to our creations, right? Regardless of the forms, in all the forms. And I believe our creations are also the things that set us free. Because although they come through us, they are not ours. They don't belong to us. Maybe in some sense they do, but also they don't. And the freedom aspect of it is what allows the spaciousness for the creative in and of itself to evolve, to transform, right? And then for us to have the spaciousness for the new creation, for the new beginning, to begin again. This one feels deep. It feels very, very home to me, if you can't tell. From the Vedic sidereal perspective, we're going into the lunar mansion, or the nakshatra, of Punarvasu. So Punarvasu, when you look at it from an etymological perspective, it means to repeat or redo or recreate or to begin again. It's so beautiful, these two totally different frameworks, right? And one's tropical and one's sidereal, and there are similarities innate within it. And when you look at the nature of Punarvasu, it is to dry up completely in order to moisten and nourish and fill up again. And it's this repetition of this energy, and I see it as a contraction and expansion, right? It's an ending and a beginning, completion and starting over again. And the nature of this Punarvasu energy is very benefic, and it's supportive, and it's loving, and it's encouraging, and it's refilling, right? It's repleting, and it's re-nourishing in that sense, and re-energizing in what is being done and in what is needing to be done. And this hexagram 45 is about providing, and it's about being able to see from a higher perspective and providing the resources for the tribe. From the Gene Key perspective, it's the shadow of dominance, it's the gift of synergy, and it's the siddhi of communion. So there's this natural ability to lead from this place of oneness, from this place of connection, not necessarily from this place of control, right? Which is probably a reflection of what we've seen from a lot of leadership thus far. But this is a totally different energy. It still holds the king and queen role, but not from a place of hierarchy, right? It's from this place of perspective and understanding, and one's own ability, one's own unique gift, personal gift, right? Unique energetic signature to be able to play a part in something greater. And with both of these energies combined, as I said, seemingly separate frameworks, one's I Ching, the Gene Keys, human design system using tropical astrology, and this one's the Vedic sidereal astrology, right, using the 27 nakshatras. Both of these themes, the Cancer energy in gate 53 and Punarvasu, right, in sidereal Gemini, is asking us, one, to nourish ourselves, to care for ourselves, and to be able to have and hold that frequency within our own being, to really be able to truly, in a selfless, yet still self-aligned way. I want to say self-centered, but I feel like self-center that term has a stigma on it, but I'd love to create a new definition around it. It's behaving and being from our center, and not in a selfish way. My interpretation of this right now, when I say self-centered and selfish, those are two different things. You can be selfless from a self-centered place, from a place where you're feeling nourished and you're feeling full, and you're caring for yourself, the basic things that humans need, and everyone should. I don't want to use that word, but it would be wonderful if everyone had the availability and the opportunity and the awareness and the willingness to do that, even in smaller ways, to help ourselves feel nurtured and feel loved and feel supported. The practical things we need to do, but also the emotional things that we need to do, the mental, the psychological things we need to do. And from that place, how we show up in the world, how we nurture others, how we support others, how we love and care for others, right? The frequency of that is implicit in our overflow. And Punarvasu is this beautiful opportunity to begin again, allowing the endings of whatever need to end. And one thing I'd like to point out as well, I know we just passed the date for the Gregorian New Year, right? And yet a lot of people I've been speaking to are still emotionally, mentally releasing from some of the things from the past year. A lot of people I've spoken to have mentioned, like, things are coming up where they're like, oh, I thought I worked on this already. And I want to invite you all to change the perspective as well of the things that might be coming up again. Firstly, remembering that, as I said, although the Gregorian New Year just happened, technically the astrological New Year, right, isn't until Aries season, which is around April. And not only that, from a human design and gene key perspective, the official Rave New Year, so the Rave astrological New Year within the human design and gene key framework, when we go into hexagram 41, which is the start codon of the genetic sequence, so therefore the start codon of the new year, which I think is going to be around the 22nd or so of this month, it's not until we go into that from my perspective, the ending of all these cycles will happen and the new beginnings will start to begin. So during this time, if you're still feeling like you're going through it, you're feeling it, especially with this Cancer full moon, come on now, like emotions up the yin yang, right? Like it's deep and it's real, and it's an opportunity for us to feel and process and transmute, yes, but before that, accept, right? And acknowledge and nurture all that's coming up for us. Understanding that perhaps it has a purpose, perhaps it had a purpose, and now we're ready to feel into it, to see it, and to understand what needs to be released, what needs to be transformed, what needs to be kept, so we can step into this new cycle of ourselves, of our expression, of our being, of what we really want to bring in with this new year cycle that's coming up before us. So keep in mind, if it's been a little wild for you, it's okay. It's still a time, especially with these retrogrades, to process and feel and reflect and revise. And see it as a beautiful opportunity, even if it may feel a little stagnant. I know it has been to me a little bit. See it as a beautiful opportunity to really close out a lot of the stuff from the past 12, 13 months, right? And get clear from this place of love and support and nurturing and still grounding and focus and stability with this Capricorn energy. But from these places, get clear on what our next steps are, moving ahead and moving forward. And one last thing that I wanted to share in regards to the stuff coming back up again. And this perspective has really, really helped me the past couple of years, especially as I've deepened into my path and really spent so much more time alone to be able to have my own reflective mirror for my stuff, right? Where in relationships, it's easier to project or have a feedback loop where it's the other. But this time, this reflective time, has reminded me that even though we feel like something's coming back up again, or, oh, we already dealt with something, why is this here again? The way that I've liked to look at it, and the way that I believe it to be true in our life trajectory as we self-actualize in our lifetime, as it's a progression, right, that we reach different stages of at different points in our life, I see it as a spiral. So even if it feels like, oh no, we're back here again, why am I thought I already dealt with this. Can we conceptualize it as if we've already done all the work and made it past there, and now we're here again on that similar vertical plane, but we're at a different level of it, right? We're a different people from when we first experienced it. We have a different level of awareness and understanding. So therefore, with the understanding of it being on a different plane, how can we look at the thing differently, right? How can we look at the issue, at the challenge, at the trigger, at the pattern from the eyes of this newer version of self, and acknowledge the progress we've made? And then from looking at it from this newer version of self, how can we learn to relate to it differently? Relate to it with more love, relate to it with more support, relate to it with more understanding of where we are and how far we've come. And I want to invite you to do that. This week, the next couple weeks, whatever comes up for you, however you can best nurture and nourish and love yourself, whatever triggers might arise, how can you use it as an opportunity to look at the situation, the pattern, the thing differently from this place of love? And be sweet to yourself, you know? That's okay. Permission to be kind to yourself. Permission to treat the little version of yourself how you would want to treat that little version of yourself. How that little version of yourself, which you are so intricately connected to, would want to be treated. It's a win-win, trust me. So for this moon, I'm sending you so much heart-centered love, so many reminders of your own love and your own ability to nurture and support, and to gracefully, as graceful as possible, close out the old cycles and be open with new eyes from this place of love, with a willingness to see new ways of being, new ways of nurturing yourself, new ways of supporting yourself, and new ways of creating a new beginning, of re-nourishing, re-moistening, re-illuminating into this next chapter of your life, both individually and collectively. We are stepping into some deep, deep times, and the more grounded we are, the more centered we are. That doesn't mean we have to be perfect. That's not what I'm saying at all. But the more present with awareness that we can be amongst our triggers, amongst our shit, the better it's going to be for us. And the more wholesome the ripple effect is going to be out into our lives, the people in our lives, and to the collective as well. Sending you all the love and all the grace and all the nourishment for the new beginnings. I'll see you soon.